Hi, my name is Denny DeMarcy. I'm the Regional Loss Venture Manager with Sherman Retail Group. Mark asked me to go over some of the functions of vendor receiving with you. Vendor receiving is a lot different than the warehouse and TNDC shipments that Mark has already discussed, because with those shipments you simply receive in full. Vendor receiving is different because we actually have to line item check that merchandise in. We line item check it in to make sure that we maintain accuracy of what we're putting in our system, because it affects your on-hand levels in the store and what we can sell to a customer, as well as what we're paying to the vendor. Now, I will tell you that vendors are sometimes notorious for not shipping what they say they're going to ship. So, for example, when you pull up a packing slip, all the merchandise listed on that packing slip may or may not be in that box. So because of that, one of the first things you do whenever you receive in a vendor shipment is, like all other shipments, you get the packing slip and you assign date and carton count on the packing slip when that shipment arrived in your store. Now, this is an ESCO shipment. With this, you're going to take the packing slip now, and you're going to verify everything that's on that packing slip to what's physically in the box. So, for example, this has two pieces listed on this packing slip: a Tinkerbell laughing on a letter block and the Eeyore personality pose. There's my Eeyore. There's one, two. We have 4 of the Eeyores. And the Tinkerbell, we have 2 of them. So now I'm going to physically write those quantities on my packing slip. Once I do that, this is what we'll use when we go up to the register and we receive this shipment into the system. We'll use the quantities that we noted on the packing slip as being physically received in the store, not necessarily what is on this packing slip. So let's go up front and enter this in the system. Okay, so we've received our shipment in the store. We've line item checked the merchandise in off the packing slip to what we actually received in the store. Now it's time to get ready to enter it in the system. Right? Somebody different than the person who checked the shipment in the store can enter this in the system. That's why it's very important that you write the quantities on the packing slip that you physically received. Alright, I can't overemphasize this point enough, because these shipments will come in different stages. So, for example, a Gantz shipment may have a total of 150 pieces on that packing order, but they might only ship in 10 pieces at a time. So you could partially receive in the system those 10 pieces that you received in your store. It'll put those remaining 140 pieces in a back order status, and it'll enable us to pay the vendor for the 10 pieces we did receive. Okay, so we're going to walk through actually changing the quantities in the system to reflect what we physically received in the store off of this ESCO PO. Okay, so now it's time to enter this ESCO shipment we received in the store into our back office system. To do this, from the main back office screen, select F2, Inventory, select F3, Vendor Receiving. When this screen comes up, it's going to list all the POs currently released for your store. On the status screen, it's going to say either released or received. The difference between these two is that released means the full PO has been released to the store, but nothing has been received off of that purchase order. And received means that the PO has been released to the store and some pieces have been received off of that purchase order. In other words, a partial shipment has been received prior. To search for the PO that you want to enter in your system, you would select F10, Sort Order, select F4, Home Office Reference Order. This is the same thing as a PO number. You'd enter your PO number up here in the search box. In our shipment, it's 2294153. And if that PO is listed in your back office, it's going to show up highlighted in blue. You're going to select that PO and either hit double click it or hit Edit, F3. Now from here, you're going to select Items, F3. After selecting Items, the screen is going to show you all of the pieces ordered for this particular PO. Now, as you remember, I line item checked in 2 different pieces, the Tinkerbell and the Eeyore. This particular PO actually has 5 total pieces listed on it. So this is a perfect example of how you can get a partial shipment in instead of a full shipment. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the quantities to reflect what we physically received in the store. Keep in mind, I told you before that vendors sometimes will ship either not the correct merchandise, not the correct quantities. Well, in this case, just looking at this, the Eeyore personality pose that we line item checked in, we received in 4 pieces, but we originally only ordered 2. So to actually change the quantities to reflect what you physically received in the store, you would select F6, inline is off. This basically gives you the ability to go in and physically change the quantities in the correct columns. Now the most important thing about this screen is we want to make sure that we change the quantities in the new received column, which is here, to reflect what we physically received in the store. For example, the Eeyore personality pose, we received 4 of these. So I'm going to double click in the box. I'm going to change the quantity to reflect what we physically received, which is 4, and I'll hit tab. You'll see the 4 is now registered in the new received column. Tinkerbell personality pose, we physically checked in 2, so that's okay. These remaining 3 pieces we did not receive in the store. So I'm going to change those quantities to a 0. And you'll see that as I'm doing that to a 0, it places these items into a back order status. With these items in a back order status, we can now pull this PO up in the future when those shipments start coming to the store. Now the quantities showing in the new received column are matching what I have on my packing slip. 2 Tinkerbells and 4 Eeyores. Everything else is a 0 because I did not receive them. Once I'm done changing the quantities, I'm going to select F6, inline is on. I'm going to escape out of this. And from here, I'm going to select F7, print. You'll hear us talk a lot of times about how you print before receive. This is the step we're doing now. We're going to print before we receive to verify that the quantities listed in the new received column, meaning newly received in your store, are matching what's on this packing slip that we're entering into the system. This is the printout where I just hit print. This is the print before receive. Now as you can see, the quantities listed in the new received column is going to be 6. This physically reflects what I received in the store on this particular shipment. What happens is after you hit receive, those quantities will then shift to a receive column, which is 1 column over to the left, and when you get in subsequent shipments, it's going to keep adding to that receive column. So there's no verification of what you received in on that day matches unless you do the print before receive function. Now, once you physically verify that these 6 pieces match what's on your packing slip, you would take this receiver purchase order printout, you would write entered by, sign and date it to signify that you received in that shipment into the system and that the quantities reflected in the new received column matches what you physically received in your store. Okay, so the next step is we're going to actually physically receive in the system what we've changed the quantities to reflect what we physically received in the store. To do that, you just select F5 receive. Are you sure you wish to receive this receiver? Select yes. Your report preview comes up. Go ahead and print that. What this will be is this will be our verification that we did physically receive it in the system. As I told you before, the quantities when you print before you receive are reflected in the new received column. Now that we physically hit F5 receive, those quantities are going to shift to the received column, verifying that we received in those 6 pieces in the store. That data will then be transferred to the corporate office when you guys pull, enabling the inventory and accounts payable group to pay that particular vendor for what we physically received in the store. Okay, so then all you're going to do now is simply attach that second printout to the packing slip and the printout you did prior to receiving, the new received printout, staple them all together and put them in your open file for the month. You'll see that this PO is still going to be listed in your system. It actually changed to a received status now because you did receive a partial shipment from the full PO. But in the future, when those remaining pieces come into your store, it'll enable you to go back in and actually physically receive what you received in the store.